Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 22 of Xiaolin Showdown, Hear Some Evil, Do Some Evil. And the episode begins with Master Feng trying to impart a new lesson onto the Xiaolin warriors. In this case, a lesson of group cohesion, coordinating with one another and playing to each other's strengths. In this case, how he wants to do this is by teaching the Xiaolin monks about, choosing their Shengongwu wisely, as so they can pick Shengongwu, they'll be able to work with whatever their team's other choices are, so they'll be able to actually flow better when they're in combat. Unfortunately, as Master Feng is trying to impart this lesson, the very Xiaolin apprentices that he's trying to teach are all distracted by their various doodads and what have you, much to Master Feng's annoyance. And so when he tells them to get to work, well, they each pull out their Shengongwu, activate them, and the end result, they get in each other's way, and the test dummy that Master Feng set up for them to destroy, it's intact. So Master Feng is not too pleased with the Xiaolin warriors and their constant distractions. In the meantime, over with the bad guys, Jack Spicer has just invented I'm just going to call it a giant hamster ball that's supposed to be called an indestructible ball. Basically, you're inside the thing, everything will bounce off of you. However, Jack doesn't really have anyone to help him test it because all of his robots are being distracted by a little girl. Specifically, a little girl named Megan, who is Jack Spicer's little cousin, who I'm guessing he's been put in charge of babysitting for a while. And basically, she's just getting on the nerves about Jack Spicer and Wuya. As for Jack, she's messing with his stuff and doing things that he doesn't want her to do. And for Wuya, well, Megan just insults her straight to her face, and since Wuya's a ghost, she can't do jack shit to this little girl. However, as this is all going on, Wuya suddenly freaks out as a new Shengongwu reveals itself. In this case, a conch shell called the Mind Reader Conch, which, as it says kind of on the tin, it gives whoever wields it the power to read the minds of other people if they hold it up to their head. As such, with this Shengongwu revealing itself, of course, the good guys and the bad guys may make a race for it. And the Mind Reader Conch is located on an island in the Java, I think. In Java, I don't know. I think it was a Java. I don't know. I don't know. My geography's good if you can't tell by my backward speaking. Point is, it's on an island. It's tropical, and for whatever reason, the Mind Reader Conch is just in a whole grove of conch shells. And so the Xiaolin warriors, having made it to the island first, have to just sift through all the conch shells until they find them. And after both Omi and Raimundo just walk right past it, just Omi and Raimundo, basically Clay is able to find the Mind Reader Conch, and well, no, his timing is rather appropriate, as Jack Spicer and Wuya arrive, with Megan riding on Jack's back because, again, Jack has to watch her, and, well, she's not making the job any easier because apparently Jack promised to let her drive, and that was a lie. As such, Jack sixes jackpots on the group, and because they're still having problems with group cohesion, they still keep getting in each other's way and nearly lose the Mind Reader Conch. Thankfully, Dojo is able to step in, and while the group does end up kicking up a sandstorm, he's able to go giant and grab not only the Xiaolin warriors, but the Mind Reader Conch, allowing them to get an easy victory. However, when the Xiaolin warriors bring the Mind Reader Conch back to the temple, Master Feng forbids the Xiaolin monks from using it, mostly because, well, in order to use the Mind Reader Conch, it requires absolute focus, and while it can be, well, I wouldn't say absolute focus, let me put it this way. While the Mind Reader Conch could be a valuable tool if used in battle, well, the level of concentration to get to that point in time, well, let's just say the Xiaolin monks aren't at that level yet, especially since they're still constantly getting distracted and somewhat bickering a little. As such, he tells the Xiaolin monks he's going to put it away and none of them can use it. And that night, all of them just sneak into the vault and use the Mind Reader Conch. Why? Fuck if I know. This is kind of one of the things that makes me wonder why, especially since Master Feng, when he has forbidden the Xiaolin monks to use a Shengongwu in the past, there's usually been a good reason, and the Xiaolin monks have realized said reason when they've misused Shengongwu in the past, with two examples being the Ring of the Nine Dragons and the Crystal Glasses. But my point is, they all use it, and it allows the Xiaolin monks to really learn what everyone thinks about one another. Raimundo thinks that Omi is gullible, Omi still doesn't fully trust Raimundo, apparently Clay thinks that Kimiko has an anger problem, and likewise Kimiko is kind of getting sick of all of Clay's cowboy western euphemisms and whatever. Point is, hearing all this does get the Xiaolin monks down, and so the next day, while they're supposed to be practicing cutting onions, they're not exactly seeing eye to eye. Unfortunately, though, this could not have come at a worse time, because you see, after Jack Spicer lost the Mind Reader conch, he finished building basically an underground tunneling device, and he uses this device to break into the Xiaolin vault. And while the Xiaolin monks are too busy bickering, he's able to just grab a bunch of their Shen Gong Wu and then run back to his home. What with the Xiaolin monks realizing they kind of effed up. While Master Feng does chastise them for their bickering and how that distracted them from stopping Jack Spicer, he tries to say that this could be a learning opportunity, since now they know what the others think of them. Maybe this will give them the chance to maybe work on these flaws and grow as people. And so the Xiaolin monks sarcastically thank each other for insulting them, and as such, Master Feng, thinking that they're now back to being working as a team, tells them to go forth and get their Shen Gong Wu back. As such, the Xiaolin monks end up breaking into Jack Spicer's compound again. I feel like at this point he should just have a revolving door for them. And upon arriving, while there is some security, they thankfully skirt it, but they end up running into Jack Spicer's little cousin, who to get her out of the way, Jack Spicer threw her in the big hamster ball, which at first he thought would trap her for good, but she found the way in and out, so she's good with playing around with it. And she does tell the Xiaolin monks that she knows where the Shen Gong Wu are, but she'll only tell them if they let her play with Dojo, which they immediately agree as they throw the dragon at her, and she directs the Xiaolin monks to Jack's lab in the basement. As such, the Xiaolin monks go down there, and they just see the bag of Shen Gong Wu that Jack stole just lying on a table, and they think, well, this seems a little too easy. And it is. It's a trap. And so Jack Spicer sticks his robots on the group. And while they do the best to fight off against the robots, even using a Dragon X Kume formation, sadly the robots do start to overpower them to the point where they're surrounded and almost obliterated. Thankfully, Dojo overheard them and their troubles, and with Megan's help, they're able to use the Indestructo Ball to just swoop into the lab and stop Jack's robots from destroying the Xiaolin monks by deflecting all of their lasers. As such, with all the robots destroyed, as they were the ones that got hit by the lasers, Omi and Jack make a grab for the bag of Shen Gong Wu, and so, with both of them holding the bag, Omi challenges Jack to a Xiaolin showdown. Winner gets all the Shen Gong Wu, with Omi wagering the Silk Spitter and Jack wagering the Mind Reader conch. And the challenge, which Jack ends up proposing, is first to cry uncle is the loser. And as such, the Xiaolin showdown is called, and again, it's really damn awesome, as Jack's lab transforms into a fucking labyrinth of machinery and pipes. It's actually pretty damn awesome. I dig it. And spoilers, it's not the last time that Jack's lab is going to be the setting for a Xiaolin showdown. Point is, it's big, it looks awesome, and so immediately Omi and Jack get to fighting. Unfortunately, because Jack is armed with a Mind Reader conch, he knows exactly what Omi is thinking, and so any strategy that Omi can think up to duke it out with Jack is able to counter and plan around. However, as Omi is thinking up new plans, a stray insult is thrown Jack's way, as Omi, of course, thinks of something insulting about Jack, which he immediately reacts to, and that gives Omi an idea, as he goes to the Xiaolin monks and says, well, if our petty insults can distract warriors as focused as ourselves, then what could they do to someone like Jack Spicer? As such, immediately all the Xiaolin warriors just begin throwing insult after insult at Jack via their thoughts, and rather than focusing on the battle, Jack keeps getting distracted by all the insults, which in turn allows Omi to get a leg up in the showdown and start whooping his ass, as he basically just starts creaming him in battle, knocking him aside, and eventually he used the Silk Spitter to make a spider web, which he throws Jack into. And as such, Jack gets dealt so much punishment that he finally just screams uncle. Thus, Omi wins the showdown, winning the bag of Shengong Wu, as well as getting the Mind Reader conch back. However, even in the loss of the Jack did still manage to keep one Shengong Wu that wasn't in the bag. In this case, the changing chopsticks, and so as everything returns to normal and he's chastised by Wuya, he used the changing chopsticks to shrink down and hide in a crack in his lab. As such, after the Xiaolin monks thank Megan for her help, they fly off on Dojo and get back to the temple, while Megan decides to take advantage of the fact that her older cousin is tiny to start tormenting him. And from there, the episode ends as we see the Xiaolin monks practicing in the courtyard, trying to get group cohesion again, as they're practicing both their elements and Shengong Wu training to, try and find better combinations of Shengong Wu to work with each other. And while Omi and Raimundo, for the most part, have started getting it down as they use the Orb of Tornami and the Sword of the Storms to actually making a storm, sadly, Clay and Kimiko aren't really having that cohesion, as she's using the Star Nabi to create a firestorm, which in turn causes the water that Raimundo and Omi kick up to, turn to rain, while Clay, using the Fist of Tebigong, ends up just cracking the earth, and, it causes Kimiko to accidentally spread her fire out and set the courtyard on fire. And while Raimundo and Omi are able to put it out, there's still a bunch of scorch marks, which lets them know that Master Feng is probably going to ream them when he finds out about this, but Omi thinks that maybe they shouldn't tell him. What he doesn't know won't hurt him, right? Well, Master Feng heard that, and he has the Mind Reader conch on standby, ready to know exactly what he doesn't know, so yeah. That was Hear Some Evil, Do Some Evil. And my thoughts on the episode, it's alright-ish. Now, here's the thing. When I was getting ready to watch this episode, I fully expected to not like it. Because I do remember that the plot did feel a little forced to me when I first watched it, and as a result, I was not looking forward to a rewatch when I came back when I was doing these vlogs. But thankfully, my opinion of this episode has risen somewhat. Not by a lot, but I can at least say that I don't think this is a bad episode. It's not a great episode, but it's not bad. It's just alright-ish. I say alright-ish because the main flaw with this episode is that it feels like the big moral lesson that we're supposed to take away from this episode is a retread of the stuff that we saw from the Royal Rumble episode, i.e. the team lacking group cohesion, needing to realize they're stronger together, finding ways to work with one another, and play to each other's strengths and work as a mighty whole. That was stuff that we had seen done in Royal Rumble, and in my opinion, it was done better there than it was here, as that episode dealt with the Xiaolin warriors getting stir-crazy and being stuck in the temple for so long, getting sick of each other's little quirks and so forth that basically turn into annoyances. And as a result, when the four Shengong Wu that revealed themselves in that episode end up revealing themselves, the Xiaolin monks take the opportunity to just immediately go after them because they think, hey, we can finally get some time to ourselves. And in turn, they end up all getting captured, and thus when Omi saves them, he uses their combined strengths to save the day, which shows they're stronger together than apart. So that was good. And I thought, like I said, that one was done better. This episode, again, however, still mostly feels like a retread. Now, it's not like a complete retread. I'm gonna say that. Because the lesson itself isn't entirely the same as the one from Royal Rumble. As the pathos that we're supposed to get here is to not be distracted. And part of the reason why the Xiaolin monks are having the issues that they're having this episode isn't just because, they're seeing all the little foibles that their team has. It's rather just they're letting little things start getting to them, and it's affecting their group cohesion. In the beginning of the episode, it was just them with their various trinkets, and Raimundo listening to an MP3 player, Kimiko messing with her hair, Clay wood carving, and Omi being distracted by a bumblebee. And as a result, when it came time for them to practice what Master Feng taught them, they were failing and failing badly. So that helped kind of showcase more what was going through. And even in the episode, while the team had some tension from hearing the insults that were thrown their way thanks to the Mind Reader conch, it wasn't like on the level of I don't want to be around these people. It was more just they were a little hurt. And as a result, while there was tension, it wasn't like note to note the same. And I will say it is kind of an interesting idea, basically saying that if you really want to master your craft, then you gotta shut other you have to really focus on your you have to really focus and so forth. But that said, that also feels somewhat like a retread from another episode, namely the third episode, whose name escapes me, but I'm sure we'll recall later, but where we saw Kimiko having to learn how to focus on a single task without letting her emotions get the better of her. And again, I think it was done better there. Than that episode, it was a character-focused episode and allowed us to see Kimiko in the limelight and actually further her character and showcase her getting over a character flaw of hers, namely her intense emotions, and actually focus on the task at hand. So in that regard, yeah, the lesson and the pathos in this episode, while not awful, just kind of feels more like retread of other episodes, and in my opinion, the pathos was done better in those other episodes. So, it's not awful, but again, it feels like we're just walking the same path that we did before, and not a lot has really changed about it beyond maybe a few details. With that said, I don't think the episode is awful by any means. There is still things there in there that are enjoyable. Like I said, but for starters, let's talk about the Mind Reader conch. As the new Shengong Wu in the episode, it's alright. It's a cool Shengong Wu, a conch shell that allows whoever wields it to read the minds of others. I think that can be pretty damn useful, and I think it's worked. And I think the upsides and the downsides of this thing are showcased well in the episode. As if you can use the Mind Reader conch in battle, it can allow you to hear your opponent's thoughts before they even say them, which means you'll be able to plan around their movements and so forth. But then likewise, the downside is that you can hear everything that everyone is saying. And, well, here's the thing. Everyone has an intrusive thought or two that slips in every now and then. Something that we don't tend to want to verbalize out loud, but it does start to pass through our head. Maybe something like a complaint here, an annoyance there. Basically just things that are a lot ruder than we ourselves as people actually are. And unfortunately, when people can start hearing those thoughts, it can start to lead to a bit of tension, and I think that's at least showcased well enough in the episode, as when the Xiaolin monks end up hearing about what the other Xiaolin monks think of their more negative qualities, they don't exactly take it well. So in that regard, I do think the Mind Reader conch is a pretty cool Shengong Wu. On top of that, one other aspect of the episode that I was going to start writing off as a flaw was, believe it or not, Megan. But let me put it this way. She's a flaw in that she can be sort of annoying, since she's written to be just to be your spoiled, rotten little girl that the bad guys have to deal with. But by that same token, it's kind of fun to see her make the bad guys suffer. There is a little bit of joy in seeing her being so sweet and kind and relishing and screwing with Jack Spicer, as it's clear that she's his family. She's a similar brand of nasty to him, and it's a good way of essentially giving Jack a taste of his own medicine. And she does end up helping the Xiaolin monks in the end, as out of pure spite, she ends up using the indestructible ball that Jack trapped her in to essentially ensure the Xiaolin monks can't get hurt when Jack has them surrounded. So I like that. It's nice, and like I said, Showdown was pretty damn awesome. It was cool to see Jack's lab transform into a labyrinth, and it's the first time that I think we've seen one of the good guys or bad guys' bases be used as the baseline for a showdown. So it's kind of cool to see how creatively it gets changed and so forth. And like I said, this isn't the last time we're gonna see Jack Spicer's lab be used as the baseline for a showdown. And hell, to my knowledge, even the Xiaolin Temple gets used as the basis for a few showdowns. So again, it's cool. I dig it. It's nice. I'm trying to really think about what else about the episode that I liked, but again, when it comes down to the episode, I think it's just alright. It's really not that big. It's really not that big of an episode. Like I said, the moral / pathos of the episode really just feels like a retread of things that we've seen before, and I think it was done better then. It doesn't mean that it was executed horribly in this episode. It's just that we've already seen it done before in other episodes. I think it was just handled better in those ones, and as a result, it really doesn't feel like we're given a lot of new material for this particular episode. While it was fun, while I do like that the Xiaolin monks Well, I did like seeing the Xiaolin monks' reactions to seeing seeing how they all thought of each other in a negative light. By that same token, again, it's still played into, we've seen this sort of thing before, though I will give the episode some kudos, in that it at least felt like the Xiaolin monks were still a tightly knit group, even when they were still pissed off at one another. As this time, even though they fake apologized to each other to appease Master Feng, they were still mad at each other, and yet they were able to break into Jack Spicer's lab, no big deal. And then during the Xiaolin showdown, they were able to come up with a plan to use their inner thoughts to distract Jack, so Omi could net a win. So like I said, it's not horrible, but like I said, but again, I'm just rambling at this point. My point is this: the pathos and moral of the episode feels like it's been done before. There doesn't well, the Megan is kind of a double-edged sword. She can be written a little negatively, but at the same time, it is kind of fun to see her in action. And likewise, the Mind Reader Conch is I think, a pretty decent Shen Gong Wu, and I do like seeing it. The showdown was a lot of fun. And overall, I guess the biggest flaw in the episode is that it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of resolution either to the conflict. I'll give credit that it shows that the Xiaolin monks are putting in more effort to be a more cohesive whole again, as the end of the episode did show them picking more precise Shen Gong Wu that can mesh with each other. But again, it doesn't really feel like the moral was completely resolved either. So apologies, I'm still adjusting something. My point is, while I don't think the episode is awful, it's not bad either. Like I said, it's just alright-ish. Not all. Like I said, there's enough there that I feel that there are other episodes that are a lot better than this one. But I think there's still enough there to keep it from being a bad episode too, and I can still give it at least a shaky thumbs up. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. Apologies for all the rambling, and I hope that you were still able to enjoy the video. But if you did enjoy the video, then I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I hope to see you next week. And if you didn't enjoy the video, well, I'm sorry I wasted your time. But either way, I hope you have a good Friday, and take care.